They scanned Earth's air, then declared it uninhabitable. But Xander Voss refused to accept a death sentence for billions. Standing before the High Council, he reveals the corrupt bargain between GASP officials and Stellar Corp. His impassioned plea: if we sacrifice billions of lives to rigid regulations, we've lost our way as a civilization, sways the vote, saving Earth from planetary cleansing by a margin of 42-14. The first beams of sunlight flashed across the curved hull of the infrared observatory station. A gleaming satellite, perched 200 kilometers above Earth's atmosphere. From this geostationary orbit, the station had an uninterrupted view of the blue planet below, its swirling cloud patterns, deep oceans, and sprawling continents all laid bare beneath the watchful gaze of the Galactic Atmospheric Survey Bureau. Inside the station's central monitoring deck, Dr. Xander Voss hunched over his console, his fingers dancing across holographic displays as he prepared the multispectral scanners for their morning sweep. As head of data analysis and chief observer aboard the research vessel, Astral Seeker, he'd led dozens of atmospheric surveys across the galaxy, but this one felt different. This was Earth, the cradle of human civilization, home to billions of souls. Initiating primary atmospheric composition scan, Xander announced, his voice steady despite the tension knotting his shoulders. Full spectrum infrared analysis commencing in 3, 2, 1. The scanner hummed to life, sending invisible beams piercing through Earth's protective layers. Behind him, the rest of the GASP survey team watched with professional detachment as data began flooding their screens. Only Xander noticed the slight tremor in Ensign Talon Frane's hands as the young atmospheric engineer calibrated the incoming readings. Preliminary data suggests elevated carbon dioxide levels, Talon murmured, his eyes fixed on the fluctuating numbers. Sulfur dioxide concentrations appear to be spiking in the northern hemisphere. Xander nodded absently, his focus locked on his own readouts. The Galactic Consortium had established the GASP with a single mandate: to identify and classify M-class planets according to their atmospheric habitability. It was a straightforward task, guided by rigid protocols and precise measurements. Planets that failed to meet the established guidelines were marked for planetary cleansing, a sterile term for an atmospheric replacement process that would eradicate all existing life forms. Earth was just another planet in their survey queue. At least, that's what the official briefing had stated. Ozone depletion readings are concerning, Xander muttered, more to himself than to his colleagues, showing a 23% reduction from baseline in the northern latitudes. The monitoring deck fell silent as the initial scan completed. Holographic projections of Earth materialized above the central table, its atmosphere depicted as layers of color-coded gases. Several patches over heavily industrialized regions glowed an ominous red. "Sir," called out the communications officer, her voice taut. "Initial atmospheric analysis has been transmitted to Command Center. They've issued a preliminary classification." Xander turned, his stomach tightening as he read the flashing message on the main screen. Earth atmosphere, uninhabitable, categorized red level. A chill swept through the monitoring deck. Everyone understood what a red level designation meant: the implementation of Regulation 77B, the initiation of planetary cleansing within 72 Earth hours. "That's impossible," breathed Dr. Imani Rhodes, the team's environmental specialist. "This can't be right. There are over 9 billion people down there." Administrative Director Leora Kent's face appeared on the main view screen, her expression professionally impassive. "All personnel are to board the Astral Seeker immediately for secondary verification from low Earth orbit. Regulation protocols demand confirmation within 24 hours. As the transmission ended, Xander exchanged a troubled glance with Imani. Something didn't add up. How could a planet teeming with life suddenly register as uninhabitable? "We need to verify this data," he said firmly. "Prepare the Seeker for immediate descent to Elio. We'll conduct in situ atmospheric sampling and get to the bottom of this." As the team hurried to comply, Xander lingered at the view screen, gazing at the blue planet below. 9 billion lives hung in the balance, and the countdown to cleansing had already begun. The astral seeker sliced through the thermosphere, its hull glowing red-hot as atmospheric friction built up around the sleek research vessel. Inside the bridge, Captain Kara Jo guided the ship with practiced precision, her hands steady on the control interfaces. "Entering stratosphere in 3 minutes," she announced. "All personnel secure for turbulence." Xander tightened his harness, his mind racing. The vessel carried state-of-the-art atmospheric in-situ analyzers, capable of capturing and analyzing air samples directly. If there was any discrepancy in the orbital readings, they would find it. "Something's off about those initial scans," Imani muttered beside him. "I've studied Earth's atmospheric records for years. Even with industrial pollution, the numbers we're seeing would require a catastrophic event." "Maybe there was one," Xander replied, staring at the atmospheric visualization on his tablet. "But a planet-wide event severe enough to trigger red level? It doesn't make sense." The ship shuddered as it penetrated deeper into Earth's atmosphere. Outside the viewports, clouds streaked past while the blue horizon curved majestically in the distance. "Beginning air sample collection," Talon called from the science station, deploying external sensors and intake valves. As the Seeker descended to 120 kilometers above Earth's surface, the vessel's external collectors began siphoning atmospheric gases for analysis. The bridge crew worked in tense silence, acutely aware of the stakes. Within minutes, new data began flowing into the ship's computers. Xander leaned forward, scanning the initial results with growing confusion. Oxygen concentration, 20.9%. Nitrogen, 78.1%. Carbon dioxide, 0.04%. He looked up, meeting Imani's perplexed gaze. "These readings are well within habitable parameters." "That can't be right," Talon said, double-checking his instruments. The observatory scan showed critical levels of atmospheric toxicity. Xander frowned, cross-referencing the new readings with the earlier data. "The only anomaly I'm seeing is ozone depletion, about 25% below standard at 45 degrees north latitude. Concerning, but nowhere near uninhabitable classification." "Could the scanners have malfunctioned?" Captain Jo asked. "Possibly," Xander murmured, still scrolling through the data. "Wait, there was a solar flare reported this morning, and those wildfires in the Amazon region have been burning for days. The smoke could have created a false reading in our infrared scanners." The comm system chimed, and Leora Kent's stern face appeared on the main screen again. "I assume you have confirmation of the red level designation, Dr. Voss? The High Council is expecting our report." Xander hesitated. "Director Kent, our preliminary in situ analysis shows normal atmospheric composition. The oxygen and nitrogen levels are well within acceptable parameters. I believe the initial reading may have been compromised by solar activity and wildfire emissions." Kent's expression hardened. "One red level reading is sufficient to initiate cleansing protocols under Regulation 77B. Your job is to confirm, not question." "With all due respect, Director," Xander countered, 9 billion lives are at stake. I need to be absolutely certain before I condemn an entire planet." "The regulations don't require your certainty, Dr. Voss. They require your compliance." Kent's voice was ice. "You have 24 hours to submit your final report. Any attempt to undermine the established protocols will result in an immediate investigation of your entire team." As the transmission ended, an uncomfortable silence fell over the bridge. Several crew members exchanged nervous glances. "She's right about the regulations," one of the junior analysts finally said. "If we contradict the initial finding without overwhelming evidence, we could all face disciplinary action." "And if we don't," Imani replied sharply, "billions of people die." Xander stood up, his decision made. We need visual confirmation. Captain Zhou, prepare a surface reconnaissance mission. I want boots on the ground within the hour. You're talking about an unauthorized landing, Zhou cautioned, though her hands were already programming the descent coordinates. I'm talking about due diligence, Xander corrected. If we're going to sign Earth's death warrant, we damn well better be sure. The Earth survey shuttle rocked violently as it descended through a layer of turbulence. Inside the compact craft, Xander, Imani, Talon, and Captain Zhou braced themselves against the buffeting forces. Approaching drop zone, Zhou announced, her fingers dancing across the control interface. Northern Montana region selected for minimal industrial interference. Atmospheric conditions stable, but I'm detecting some smoke drift from wildfires approximately 300 kilometers south. Through the shuttle's viewports, Xander watched as the patchwork landscape of rural Montana grew larger. Fields of bright yellow canola flowers alternated with dark pine forests and winding rivers. It was beautiful, pristine, and supposedly uninhabitable. Setting down in 3, 2, 1. The shuttle touched down in a clearing, kicking up a cloud of dust and pollen. As the engines cycled down, an eerie silence fell, broken only by the gentle pinging of cooling metal. Portable air analyzers ready, Talon reported, handing out handheld devices to each team member. These will give us real-time readings of oxygen, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and particulate matter. Remember, we're collecting empirical evidence, Xander instructed. Document everything. Take samples from multiple locations. We need incontrovertible proof of Earth's atmospheric condition. The shuttle's ramp descended with a pneumatic hiss, revealing the Montana landscape in all its glory. A gentle breeze carried the scent of pine and wildflowers into the ship. Imani was the first to step onto Earth's soil. Her analyzer held out before her. Oxygen levels reading at 20.8%, carbon dioxide at 0.039%, nitrogen at 78.2%. She looked back at Xander, a small smile playing on her lips. Perfectly breathable air. One by one, the team disembarked, spreading out to conduct their tests. Xander walked toward a nearby stand of pines, marveling at their height and vitality. How could a forest like this exist in an uninhabitable atmosphere? I'm getting elevated particulate readings, Talon called from the edge of the clearing. PM 2.5 levels higher than ideal, likely from the wildfire smoke drifting in from the south. Xander nodded, making a note in his datapad. Local contamination, not global. Certainly not enough to trigger planetary cleansing. As the team continued their survey, a troubling pattern emerged. The air was indeed clean by any reasonable standard, with only minor pollution from distant wildfires. Nothing about Montana's atmosphere justified a red-level designation. Could the problem be localized to another region? Captain Zhou suggested, as they regrouped near the shuttle. That's what I'm beginning to think, Xander agreed. But under GASP regulations, a red-level designation in any region requires planetary-wide action. Imani's analyzer beeped suddenly. I've got something. The system just automatically connected to Earth's atmospheric monitoring network. There's archived data here from 2 weeks ago. A major industrial accident in northern India, the Mandapur region. The team clustered around her device, watching as images of billowing black smoke and factory fires filled the small screen. Ozone depletion in that region reached critical levels, Talon noted, scrolling through the data. Aluminum smelters and steel mills were releasing twice the permitted levels of pollutants. Xander felt a glimmer of understanding. So one region experiences a temporary atmospheric crisis, and the entire planet gets flagged for cleansing. That's the protocol, Zhou confirmed grimly. One red zone means the whole planet is red. A burst of static interrupted their discussion as the shuttle's communication system activated. This is Director Kent. Your unauthorized surface landing has been detected. You are ordered to return to orbit immediately. Your actions constitute a serious breach of protocol. Xander exchanged glances with his team before responding. Director Kent, we've discovered critical information. The red level designation appears to be based on a localized industrial accident in northern India, not a global atmospheric condition. That is irrelevant, Kent snapped. The regulations are clear. One compromised zone requires full planetary action. But there's precedent for regional intervention, Xander argued. We could request a declassified partial sweep instead of condemning the entire planet. Kent's voice grew cold. You have 24 hours to submit your final report, Dr. Voss. After that, cleansing begins automatically, and I suggest you consider your future with gasp when preparing that report. As the communication ended, Imani looked at Xander with concern. She's not going to budge on this, is she? No, Xander admitted. But we're not done yet. If we can document enough evidence to support a partial sweep, we might be able to appeal directly to the High Council. Talon's analyzer suddenly emitted a warning tone. Solar storm activity increasing. We may lose communications with the observatory soon. Then we work fast, Xander decided. Let's collect as much data as possible before we're forced back to orbit. The lives of billions depend on it. Back aboard the Astral Seeker. Xander paced the length of the ship's laboratory, his mind racing as Imani and Talon processed the surface samples. The evidence was overwhelming. Earth's atmosphere as a whole was well within habitable parameters. Only the localized pollution in northern India justified concern, and even that was likely temporary. The spectral analysis confirms it, Talon announced, looking up from his workstation. The initial red level reading was contaminated by two factors: solar flare interference with our sensors and the smoke plume from the Amazon wildfires. The infrared scanners misinterpreted the data. And the northern India situation? Xander asked. Imani brought up a holographic map. Industrial accident at the Mandipur manufacturing complex. Massive release of sulfur dioxide and other pollutants. Ozone depletion in that region hit 65% below normal levels. Definitely red zone territory. But the affected area is less than 500 square kilometers. That's less than 0.01% of Earth's surface, Xander muttered. Hardly justification for planetary cleansing. Captain Zhou entered the lab, her expression grim. Communications are deteriorating rapidly. The solar storm is intensifying, and we've lost direct contact with the observatory. How long until we can re-establish communication? Xander asked. 6 hours, minimum, maybe longer. Xander ran a hand through his hair, calculating rapidly. That gives us time to compile our report and evidence. We'll present a case for partial sweep, targeted atmospheric cleansing of the Mandipur region only. Kent won't accept it, Talon warned. We'll go over her head, direct to the High Council if necessary. Xander turned to the view screen, where Earth hung suspended against the black void of space. I won't condemn a living planet on a technicality. A soft chime from Imani's workstation interrupted them. I've made contact with a surface researcher, Sarah Mills from Montana State University. She specializes in wildfire smoke impacts. She might be able to provide additional ground-level data. Xander nodded. Put her through. The view screen flickered, revealing a woman in her 30s. Her lab coat slightly rumpled, as if she'd been working long hours. This is Dr. Mills. I understand you need information about our atmospheric conditions. Yes. Dr. Mills. We're conducting a survey and need first-hand accounts of daily life. How would you describe air quality in your region? Mills shrugged. Generally excellent. Aside from seasonal wildfire smoke, people still jog outdoors. Children play in parks. We monitor air quality closely. Of course. But nothing alarming has appeared in our data. And you're aware of the industrial incident in northern India? Imani asked. The Mandipur accident? Yes. It made international news. Terrible situation. But the atmospheric effects are largely contained to that region. Our global monitoring network shows the pollution plume is being managed by India's emergency atmospheric scrubbers. Xander exchanged meaningful glances with his team. Would it be possible to connect us with other researchers around the planet? We need to establish a comprehensive picture. Of course, Mills replied. I can set up a global conference call within the hour. Is there something specific you're concerned about? Xander hesitated, unwilling to cause panic. Just conducting thorough due diligence. Thank you for your assistance. After ending the call, Xander turned to his team. We need more than just scientific readings. We need human testimonies, evidence that Earth is very much alive and habitable. I'll coordinate with Mills to gather video evidence, Imani offered. Children playing outdoors, farmers tending fields, visual proof that contradicts the red level designation. Good. Talon. Compile all our atmospheric data into a formal appeal. Captain Zhou, prepare for emergency transmission to the High Council as soon as the solar storm subsides. Xander's expression was resolute. We have less than 48 hours before automatic cleansing protocols activate. Every minute counts. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Xander remained in the lab, staring at the chemical analysis of Earth's atmosphere displayed across his screens. The data was clear, the evidence irrefutable. Yet he knew that regulations and politics often trumped scientific fact. Somewhere in the High Council chambers, decisions were being made about Earth's fate based on rigid protocols, rather than reality. A sudden memory surfaced, something his academy professor had once said. The greatest danger to scientific truth isn't ignorance, but the illusion of knowledge. The Gatsby's reliance on remote sensing, without ground verification, was exactly that kind of dangerous illusion. His musings were interrupted by an alert from the ship's system. Incoming transmission from Administrative Director Kent. Signal strength limited due to solar interference. Xander braced himself as Kent's face appeared on screen, her image breaking into pixels occasionally as the signal wavered. Dr. Voss, your insubordination is unacceptable, she began without preamble. The unauthorized landing, the communication with Earth residents, all violations of protocol. Director Kent, we've discovered critical evidence that the red level designation is fundamentally flawed. Xander replied calmly. The initial reading was corrupted by solar interference and wildfire emissions. Earth's atmosphere is overwhelmingly within habitable parameters. You are not authorized to make that determination. I'm authorized to collect and analyze atmospheric data. That's precisely what I've done. Xander leaned forward. We've also identified the source of the legitimate red level reading, the Mandipur industrial zone in northern India. A partial sweep of that region would resolve the issue without planetary genocide. Kent's expression remained impassive. The regulations do not allow for selective interpretation. Dr. Voss, one red zone means the entire planet is classified red. The regulations also provide for exceptional circumstances, Xander countered. Clause 42C specifically allows for regional intervention when contamination is demonstrably isolated. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Kent's face before the solar interference increased, fragmenting her image further. Your report. Expected. 24 hours. Non-compliance will. The transmission dissolved into static. Xander sat back, a small sense of victory warming his chest. He'd planted a seed of doubt. Now he needed to nurture it with irrefutable evidence. Captain, he called over the intercom, set course for the Mandipur region. If we're going to make a case for partial sweep, we need direct samples from the contamination zone. The Astral Seeker cruised high above the sprawling industrial complex of Mandipur, northern India. Even from altitude, the damage was visible. A haze of yellow-gray smog hung over the region, creating a dome of pollution that stood in stark contrast to the clear air surrounding it. Atmospheric readings confirm critical levels of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. Talon reported from his station. Ozone depletion at 62% below normal parameters. Definitely red level conditions. But contained, Xander emphasized, studying the visual feeds. The pollution boundary is clearly defined. It's not spreading to adjacent regions. Imani pointed to thermal imaging displays. The Indian authorities have already deployed emergency scrubbers around the perimeter. They're working to neutralize the worst of the pollutants. Document everything, Xander ordered. We need to demonstrate beyond any doubt that this is an isolated incident that can be addressed through targeted intervention. As the ship completed its survey of the Mandipur region, Xander compiled the data into his formal appeal. The case was building. Earth as a whole remained habitable, with only one small region requiring atmospheric restoration. A partial sweep would save billions of lives while still addressing the legitimate environmental concern. The ship's communication system suddenly chimed. Incoming transmission from Earth, Global Research Conference. The main view screen lit up with dozens of faces. Environmental scientists, atmospheric specialists, and public health officials from around the world. Sarah Mills appeared at the center of the grid. Dr. Voss, I've gathered colleagues from 6 continents to provide real-time atmospheric assessments, she explained. Everyone, please share your current readings and observations. One by one, the researchers reported their findings. From Antarctica to the Amazon, from Australia to Alaska. The story was consistent. Normal atmospheric composition, healthy ecosystems, thriving human populations. Several scientists specifically mentioned the Mandipur incident as an unfortunate but contained disaster. As you can see, Mills concluded, Earth remains very much habitable. Whatever data triggered your concern must be anomalous or misinterpreted. Xander thanked the assembled scientists, his determination strengthening. This testimony will be included in our official report to the Galactic Consortium. Your assistance may have saved your planet. After ending the transmission, Xander turned to his team. Compile all of this into our appeal. I want testimony, atmospheric readings, visual evidence, everything. We'll present an ironclad case for partial sweep. The solar storm is beginning to subside, Captain Joe reported. We should be able to establish stable communication with the High Council within 2 hours. Good. By then, our report will be ready. Xander paused, considering his next words carefully. I should warn you all. What we're doing could have serious professional consequences. Challenging GASB protocols isn't taken lightly. Imani crossed her arms. 9 billion lives, Xander. I think we can risk our careers for that. Talon nodded his agreement. The data is clear. If we ignore it because of bureaucratic regulations, we're betraying everything science stands for. I'll set course for the High Council station, Captain Joe said simply. As his team returned to their tasks, Xander felt a surge of gratitude. They understood what was at stake, not just Earth's population, but the integrity of their scientific mission. GASB had been established to protect life, not destroy it on technicalities. The ship's alert system suddenly blared. Warning, incoming transmission from GASB Command. Priority Alpha. Director Kent's face appeared on screen, her expression thunderous. Dr. Voss, you are hereby ordered to cease all operations and return to GASB headquarters immediately. Your team is under investigation for multiple protocol violations. Director Kent, we're preparing a formal appeal to the High Council based on new evidence, Xander replied, keeping his voice level. The data clearly supports a partial sweep rather than planetary cleansing. You have no authority to make that determination. Actually, as chief observer, I have not only the authority but the responsibility to ensure accurate atmospheric classification. Xander stood straighter. Would you prefer I falsify my report to support an incorrect designation? Kent's eyes narrowed. You're playing a dangerous game, Dr. Voss. I'm doing my job. The scientific evidence is unequivocal. Earth's atmosphere is habitable except for one isolated region. A partial sweep of the Mandipur zone will resolve the legitimate concern while preserving billions of lives. The regulations? The regulations serve our mission, Xander interrupted. Not the other way around. And our mission is to protect life, not extinguish it unnecessarily. For a long moment, Kent was silent, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. Submit your appeal if you must, but be warned, if the High Council rejects it, you and your entire team will face severe consequences. Understood, Xander replied simply. As the transmission ended, Captain Joe looked at Xander with newfound respect. That took courage. Not as much as it's going to take to face the High Council, Xander admitted. But we have truth on our side. Sometimes that's enough. The High Council station, Sky Spire 1, loomed ahead, its elegant crystalline structure reflecting the distant sunlight, shaped like a massive obelisk. The station served as the administrative heart of the Galactic Consortium, where representatives from thousands of worlds convened to oversee interplanetary affairs. The Astral Seeker docked with practiced precision, and Xander prepared to present their case. In his hand, he clutched a data crystal containing all their evidence, atmospheric readings, scientific testimony, visual documentation of Earth's vibrant life. The Council has agreed to an emergency session, Captain Joe informed him. Apparently, our appeal has generated significant interest throughout the consortium. Or controversy, Xander mused. Either way, it's our chance to save Earth. As Xander and his team made their way through the station's grand corridors, they couldn't help but notice the unusual number of observers. Delegates from various worlds lined the hallways, murmuring among themselves as the Earth survey team passed. Word travels fast, Imani whispered. I think we've become something of a sensation. Let's hope it works in our favor, Xander replied. The council chamber itself was imposing. A vast circular room with tiered seating rising around a central presentation platform. 65 council members from the most influential worlds in the consortium occupied the highest tier, while hundreds of observers filled the lower levels. At the center of the council arc sat Kenneth Hawthorne, the imposing chairman of the High Council. His silver hair and piercing blue eyes gave him an appearance of wisdom, though Xander knew his reputation for pragmatic politics over scientific principle. The council recognizes Dr. Xander Voss and the Earth Survey team, Hawthorne announced, his voice resonating through the chamber. You have submitted an emergency appeal regarding atmospheric classification of Earth. Present your case. Xander stepped onto the platform, feeling the weight of billions of lives on his shoulders. Honorable Council, I come before you with evidence that Earth's red-level designation is fundamentally flawed, and that a partial sweep, rather than planetary cleansing, is the appropriate response. He inserted the data crystal into the presentation console, and the chamber darkened as holographic displays materialized around him. Earth appeared above the platform, rotating slowly as atmospheric data scrolled alongside. Our initial orbital scan detected critical atmospheric contamination, triggering automatic red-level designation, Xander explained. However, subsequent in-situ analysis revealed that this reading was corrupted by two factors: solar flare interference with our scanners and smoke plumes from regional wildfires. The display shifted to show their atmospheric measurements from multiple locations around the planet. As you can see, oxygen levels remain at approximately 20.9%, nitrogen at 78%, and carbon dioxide at 0.04%, all well within habitable parameters for the vast majority of Earth's surface. Murmurs rippled through the council as the evidence unfolded. Xander continued, his confidence growing. We have identified one legitimate red zone, the Mandipur industrial region in northern India, where an accident released significant pollutants into the local atmosphere. The display zoomed in on the affected area. Ozone depletion in this region reached 62% below normal levels, justifying intervention. However, this contamination is contained to an area of less than 500 square kilometers, approximately 0.001% of Earth's surface. Xander gestured, and the display changed to show children playing in Montana, farmers working fields in Europe, and ordinary life continuing around the globe. Earth remains a vibrant, living planet. Its atmospheric composition supports over 9 billion human lives and countless other species. He straightened, facing the council directly. I therefore formally request a partial sweep limited to the Mandipur region, as provided for under Clause 42C of the GASP regulations. Chairman Hawthorne leaned forward. Director Kent, you wish to respond? Leora Kent rose from her seat among the GASP officials. The regulations are explicit, Chairman. One red zone requires planetary-wide action. Allowing exceptions undermines the entire classification system. Even when the red zone comprises less than 1,000th of the planetary surface, Xander challenged. Regulations exist for a reason. Dr. Voss. Kent replied coldly. They prevent subjective interpretation and ensure consistent application across all surveyed worlds. Hawthorne nodded thoughtfully. The council recognizes Stellar Corp's representative. A sleek, corporate figure rose from the observer section. Adrian Mercer, Chief Operations Officer of Stellar Corp, the galaxy's largest atmospheric processing corporation. His smile didn't reach his eyes as he addressed the council. Honorable members, Stellar Corp has already committed significant resources to Earth's atmospheric restoration. Contracts have been signed, equipment deployed. The financial implications of a last-minute change would be severe. And more important than 9 billion lives? Imani interjected, unable to contain herself. Hawthorne raised a hand for silence. The financial arrangements are secondary to the scientific classification. Dr. Voss, do you have further evidence to present? Xander hesitated, then reached into his pocket for a small device. I do, Chairman. With the Council's permission, I would like to play a recorded conversation between Stellar Corp executives and certain GASP officials. Kent paled visibly as Xander activated the device. A conversation filled the chamber. The Earth contract is worth billions. Leora, make sure that red level designation sticks. The data doesn't support it. Adrian, their atmosphere is within parameters except for that one industrial zone. That's all we need. One red zone means the whole planet goes red. Those are your precious regulations. Just make it happen, and Stellar Corp will ensure your retirement is very comfortable indeed. Stunned silence fell over the council chamber. Kent's face had gone ashen, while Mercer sputtered in barely contained rage. That recording is a fabrication, Mercer finally managed. It can be authenticated, Xander replied calmly. And there's more where that came from. Chairman Hawthorne's expression had hardened. These are serious allegations that will require investigation. However, they do not change the immediate question before us: Earth's atmospheric classification and the appropriate response. The Vice Chair of the Council, Admiral Neha Rao, leaned forward. We must decide today. If no action is taken, the automatic cleansing protocol will activate at 0000 stellar calendar time tomorrow. Xander took a deep breath, knowing this was his final opportunity to save Earth. He stepped to the center of the platform, his voice quiet but clear. Honorable Council, I stand before you not merely as a scientist fighting for data integrity, but as a guardian of life. When I look at Earth, I don't see just atmospheric readings and chemical compositions. I see children playing under maple trees, farmers tending crops under open skies, billions of souls living in harmony with their world. He gestured to the rotating image of Earth above him. If we can't recognize the value of this vibrant world, if we sacrifice billions of lives to rigid regulations or corporate profits, then we have lost our way as a civilization. The chamber fell silent as his words hung in the air. For a moment, Xander thought he glimpsed a flicker of doubt in even Kent's composed features. The Council will now vote, Hawthorne announced. The question: should Earth receive a partial sweep limited to the Mandipur region, or the standard planetary cleansing as required by current regulations? Tension mounted as Council members entered their votes. Xander held his breath, acutely aware that every second brought Earth closer to either salvation or destruction. Finally, Hawthorne stood. The results are as follows: 42 members in favor of partial sweep, 14 in favor of full planetary cleansing, 9 abstentions. His voice carried throughout the chamber. The motion for partial sweep of the Mandipur region is approved. Earth will be reclassified as amber status, requiring continued monitoring, but no planetary-wide intervention. Relief crashed over Xander like a wave. Around him, his team exchanged emotional glances, the weight of billions of lives lifting from their shoulders. Cleansing drones will be deployed to the Mandipur region within 12 hours. Hawthorne continued. A formal investigation into the allegations against Stellar Corp and certain GASB officials will commence immediately. As the council session adjourned, Xander found himself surrounded by delegates, offering congratulations. Many expressed admiration for his willingness to challenge the system, while others seemed merely relieved that a potential atrocity had been averted. "You've made powerful enemies today," Captain Joe murmured as they made their way back to the Astral Seeker. "And saved 9 billion lives," Xander replied. "I can live with that trade-off." Over the next 48 hours, GASB cleansing drones descended upon the Mandipur region of northern India. The specialized machines deployed atmospheric scrubbers and ozone seeding technology, gradually neutralizing the industrial pollutants and restoring the local air quality. From the observation deck of the Astral Seeker, Xander and Amani watched the livestream footage as the previously smog-choked skies over Mandipur began to clear. Atmospheric readings showed dramatic improvement, ozone levels increasing from 30 Dobson units to 65 within just 2 days. "It's working," Imani said softly. "The regional approach was the right call, and far less disruptive than planetary cleansing would have been." Xander agreed. "The local ecosystem remains intact, and human life continues uninterrupted." Reports from surrounding areas showed people celebrating in the streets as blue sky became visible for the first time in weeks. Children who had been kept indoors due to hazardous air quality were finally able to play outside again. Xander compiled a detailed report on the partial sweep's success, recommending that Earth nations implement stricter emissions controls and transition to cleaner energy sources to prevent future incidents. The report was transmitted to both the High Council and Earth's governments. The interplanetary media had seized on the story, with headlines proclaiming "GASB scientist saves Earth" and corporate scheme to cleanse Earth thwarted. Stellar Corp's stock had plummeted as news of the recorded conversation spread, and several executives, including Adrian Mercer, had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Director Kent had submitted her resignation from GASB, acknowledging in a brief statement that procedural rigidity must never supersede scientific integrity or the preservation of life. As the Astral Seeker prepared to depart Earth's orbit, Xander received one final communication from Sarah Mills. "On behalf of everyone down here who has no idea how close we came to disaster, thank you," she said simply. "Your willingness to question authority may have saved our entire world." Xander smiled. "I just followed the data, Dr. Mills. That's what scientists are supposed to do." "Well, if you're ever in Montana, there's a group of very happy children who would love to show their appreciation. The air here is wonderful today." After ending the transmission, Xander remained at the viewport, gazing down at the blue planet below. The experience had changed him, reinforcing his belief that science must serve life, not bureaucracy or corporate interests. "Course set for GASP headquarters," Captain Joe announced. "We'll be facing quite a debriefing when we arrive. And probably a restructuring of the entire atmospheric classification system," Xander added. "That's not a bad thing." 6 months later, Xander stood on a hilltop in rural Montana, breathing deeply of the clean, pine-scented air. Earth had been officially reclassified as amber status, subject to regular monitoring, but no longer under threat of planetary cleansing. The aftermath of the Earth classification crisis had reverberated throughout the galactic consortium. Gas B protocols had been revised to require in situ verification before any red level designation could be finalized. The one red zone rule had been amended to consider proportional contamination relative to planetary surface area. Xander himself had been appointed chair of the newly formed Interplanetary Environmental Ethics Committee, tasked with ensuring that scientific protocols never lost sight of their ultimate purpose, the preservation of life. In the valley below, he could see children playing in a schoolyard, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Farmers tended their fields under the open sky, while in the distance, a small hydroelectric dam, funded by the Galactic Consortium as part of a clean energy initiative, generated power without pollution. "They look so happy," Imani observed, joining him on the hilltop. "Hard to believe they never knew how close they came to extinction." "Perhaps that's for the best," Xander replied. "Though I hope the revised Gas B protocols mean no other world will face the same threat." The Astral Seeker gleamed in the sunlight where it rested in the nearby clearing. Tomorrow they would depart for their next assignment, a comprehensive survey of potentially habitable worlds in the Orion sector. But this time, they would carry with them a new appreciation for the delicate balance between scientific protocol and ethical responsibility. "Science is never just about the numbers," Xander said softly, watching a flock of birds soar across the valley. "It's about understanding how those numbers affect living beings." As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the Montana landscape, Xander felt a profound sense of peace. Earth continued its journey through space, its atmosphere still imperfect, but undeniably alive, a testament to the principle that life, in all its messy complexity, deserved protection. "We've proven that adaptability isn't just a biological trait," he mused. "Our institutions need it too. The ability to recognize when rigid adherence to rules becomes harmful, when compassion must temper procedure." In the gathering dusk, lights began to twinkle in distant homes. 9 billion lives continuing their daily existence, unaware of how close they had come to oblivion. Xander had helped save a world, but more importantly, he had helped change a system. As Gas B monitoring ships passed overhead, their mission now one of assistance rather than judgment. Xander smiled. The regions once choked by wildfire smoke now sprouted new forests, while communities around the world embraced sustainable practices with support from the Galactic Consortium. "Ready to head back?" Imani asked, gesturing toward the ship. Xander took one last look at the peaceful valley below. "Yes," he said finally. "There are other worlds waiting, other atmospheres to study. And next time, we'll get it right from the start." As they walked back to the Astral Seeker, the first stars appeared in the deepening blue of Earth's sky, a living planet, breathing freely in the vast cosmos, its future, once again, its own to determine.